All right. Um, Welcome to the virtual office hours. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I just wanted to say this is a monthly series of the Vermont Historical Records Program, part of the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration. VHRP is generously funded by the National Historical Publications and Records Commission and the Vermont Secretary of State's office. My name is Jane Cadwallader. I'm the roving archivist, and I provide technical assistance and guidance to historical societies, public libraries, municipalities, and museums around the state of Vermont, and in support of the VHRP mission. And that is to improve public access to and engagement with historical records and to encourage and facilitate collaborative efforts among Vermont's historical records repositories. I would like to let everybody know we have a virtual office hours takeover today. My colleague Kara Koenig, who's a reference archivist here at Vermont State Archives and Records Administration, will be giving a presentation about reference services here at the Vermont State Archives and talk a little bit about what she does. Before we get started, we'll probably do the presentation first and then take questions afterwards. You're also welcome to add questions to the chat, and we'll address those during the Q&A part. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Kara, and she's going to share her presentation. And I will be on mute because there's a little bit of construction outside of my window, so I don't want to. Thank you, everybody.
And Jane, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on just a minute. Great. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. And like Jane said, I work in the state archives. I'm the state archives outreach specialist. So what that usually means is I'm at the reference desk and doing outreach. So working with our archival records. So just a little bit about me. I grew up mostly in Vermont, so mostly in Bells Falls and Springfield, Vermont. But I'm currently in central Vermont, closer to the archives. I have a master's in museum studies, and I've been with the state since 2021, but with Vasara in my current position since 2023. And some of my favorite things to talk about with the state archives are doing and looking at Vermont history through state statutes, and looking at what we have through the manuscript state papers. There's loads to find there from very different avenues. And we'll talk more about those types in a little bit. So what does a record specialist do? So my official title through my job the state is a record specialist. So what we do at the reference desk is we answer questions. We try and help locate records. So if I get a request, I may not know exactly where that record is, and that's when we go back to state statutes to try and locate it. We'll offer suggestions for other repositories. So I often refer people out to town clerk's offices or UVM or other areas where that particular record might be located. We'll do a scan for records. So understanding that Vermont is sometimes hard to get to central Vermont if you're up north or down south, especially in winter. So what we can do is if we find your record, we can usually scan it and email it so that someone can receive what they're looking for without coming in person. The other things we do is when records come out, we identify conditions of the records. And if we need to mitigate those, we'll do some mitigation. But we also sometimes will notice issues with our databases. So we'll be able to figure out what's wrong and make those corrections. The other thing that we'll do is kind of develop resources that we think that we've seen a lot in our reference room that might help other researchers locate records. Recently, we've done a handout on vital records because we get a lot of people looking for those. And then outreach. So we go to events and try and let people know that we're here for their research, how we can help them look for their records that they're looking for. Some things that we can't do is extensive research. Usually I've gotten requests with all and any records that exist in the archives. That is too big for us. We usually will ask someone to narrow it down. And we can't interpret the record. So someone will ask me, what does that mean? All I know is what is written on that record. It is up to the researcher to interpret. So I will try and help find records that might help them interpret, whether they need a definition of a word. But it's not something that I can do. So a little bit about the state archives. So we were created by Act 60 of 2008. And then what it did was consolidate the Public Records Division with the Archives Division. So today we're the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration, currently under the Office of Secretary of State. So we're an office of 20. So nice staff for the small state. And below in the green is our core purpose. So what we do is preserve, promote, protect, and provide accurate and authentic, reliable records and information through our programs and services and partnerships. And so a little bit about VHRP. So it's not just the archives and the records and reference that we're doing. So we have these 6 units at VHRP, and we all do something a little bit different. So we have administrative and reference services. And so I'm part of reference services, but we have the administrative team. So if people are needing an apostille, or we're looking at rules and processing. So we have a whole other side that's working through that. We have the Targeted Assistance Program, who helps state agencies develop record schedules to identify the records that will eventually come into the archives, or if they need to go to the record center. And then we have Tech Services, who deal with the records coming in, whether they're electronic or paper. So if they need to do metadata, they work to get those records into the systems. And then we have the Historic Records Program, which Jane is part of, and the Local Records Program, which works with municipalities, and the State Records Center. They're the ones that part of the Records Center holds state agency records, which we don't have access to. They're physically here, but legal access remains with the agency. And so to access those, you would have to go through the agency records officers. So our scope of holdings with in the state archives are public records. And so public record is in state statute. And what that means is that anything that we do in the course of our business as part of a public agency is a public record. There are exemptions to that agency. So just because it's a public record does not mean access is available to everyone. So another example would be, we have records of governors here, but we don't have any personal records of the governor. We only have the records of what they did during their state business. So their official work products. So sometimes people will look at those, but then need to go, for example, to UVM or the Vermont Historical Society. So at the state archives, we have a few repositories. So we have our physical records. So we have about 20,000 containers of paper records and approximately 22,000 of microfilm reels in the state archives. Now, if we're adding the material from the record center, that goes up to about 90,000 containers and about 53,000 microfilm reels. Some of the stuff in the record center will one day move into the archives. We also have our digital repository. That is for digital born records or certain images that have been reimagined or reimaged. And so that usually, if you're looking for committee video recordings from the legislature, those are on VT Retain. So those are 2 places to look. And all of these records can be requested either online, phone, or visiting us. And I'll go into that a little bit more in a bit. So records. We have records from all 3 branches of state government: judicial, executive, and legislative. So we also have, as part of the executive branch, we have agency records. So if someone is studying a certain agency or report, we're looking at FPR is a good example, Forest Parks and Rec. We have land records, but we might have some administrative records. So we have those agency records, which are really helpful when looking backwards on what different agencies did. prior. Manuscript state papers is great for multiple reasons. We have people doing genealogy through them because we have a great resource called the NIE Index, which is a by name index for the manuscript state papers, which allows you to see if your relative signed a petition for a road. So we have those. And then the other part of manuscript state papers is understanding how the state of Vermont formed and what those records were. The Surveyor General papers goes kind of with that. It's those early surveys of Vermont. We do have some military records, and we have some municipal records and the eugenic surveys, which do get checked out quite frequently. But we also have many more. So really it's up to your subject of what you're looking for. Just send us a question and ask, and we'll try and locate what we have related to your topic. So the big question is, how do we access records? So anybody is welcome in our reference room Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, except state holidays. And that's with our last containers are pulled at 3:30 p.m. every day. It's helpful if you tell us that you're coming, especially if identified records that you'd like to see, because we'll pull those ahead of time so you can get right to work when you arrive. You don't have to. It's just that if you don't and you identify them when you get here, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to pull that record. So we're trying to make it as most time efficient as possible. You can also send us information to do a copy request. So you can email us at sos.archives@vermont.gov. We also have an online request form. Some people, it gets really confusing because it wants you to put in a container number or a series number, which not everybody knows. So email is usually great because you can write out what you're looking for and give us as much information as you have. You can also call us at 802-828-2308. Often we might ask you to email us after you talk with us, just because we like to have that email in case of spellings. So sometimes we may mishear a spelling over the phone. So at least in email, we've got that spelling. And then our repositories, we've got the online guide, which you can search and discover what records we have. It can get a little confusing. And so if you have any troubles, just give us a call. We're more than happy to help you through it. And also you can search VT Retain, our digital repository, online as well. And this is the big one. Some people may not know this. All Vermonters have free access to Vermont newspapers and Vermont records on Ancestry.com and newspapers.com. So we have the website. This access is currently housed on the old myvermont.gov website, but it's currently in transition. And you'll see it when you go to the link. They're working to move it to a new spot that's more up to date. But for now, this is where it's at. We do have instructions on how to access it, so we can hand that out later. But this is a great resource that you can start doing research from your home computer without coming in. We do have this access on our computers in the reference room, so if you prefer to do it in our reference room, that is available as well. So the main takeaways from this presentation are, is our scope, and that is the records of Vermont state government. That's what we have. The next one is, we're here to help you locate them, potentially copy them, and answer any questions that you may have. We try and find what you're looking for, even if we don't have it, of who may have it. We'll try as best we can to locate what you're looking for. And then the next one is just reach out. We are very responsive on our emails. So just send us an email. We'll get back to you mostly about 3 days. If you just have a question of, where do I find this, or where do I start looking for records on this subject? Do you have anything? What might have been going on? If we don't know, we ask our colleagues and see if they knew anything. If it's a topic we haven't heard before. And it, and then if we all haven't heard of it, we go to the statutes and see if we can find what we're looking for. So yeah, how to contact us. We are in Middlesex, so exit 9 off of I-89. Our reference room phone number is 802-828-2308. If we don't answer, it's because we've got someone in the reference room and we can't get to the phone, but leave a voicemail and we will respond back to you. You can email the reference room box, which is monitored by multiple people, at sos.archives@vermont.gov. Or you're more than welcome to send me a direct email at kara.koenig@vermont.gov. If I need to, I'll forward it to the other box, or take a look and see if it's not something reference related. You're also welcome to go to our website. I understand it might get a little confusing on the website, but so if you're looking on our website and you can't find something, just contact us and we'll help you, and we can get you a direct link to what you're looking for. But I think that's it. If we have any questions, welcome to take those. And Jane, I don't know if you have any in the
Yeah.
chat.
Thank you so much, Kara. That was really informative.